Welcome to the Songwriter Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Vidala, and we're going to talk about music theory, lyric writing, creative productivity, inspiration, and more. I'm super excited to have you here, so let's dive into the episode. Hello, friend. On this podcast, we're going to ask a question, and that is, as a songwriter, do you need to know music history? And the reason we're going to talk about this is because I have multiple times heard people say things like, "What? How do you not know insert random Metallica solo here? You're a rock songwriter." Or, "You were in a rock band. How do you not like Nirvana?" Or, "What do you mean you don't know insert this Beatles song here?" From people who are anywhere from what would call themselves music aficionados to people who would mix my music. And I always thought it was weird that everybody was so obsessed with, knowing specific things about, like, certain artists that, in theory, I somehow fall under the tree of, if you will. So if you know anything about sports and stuff, you'll know that there's something called a coaching tree. And that's the concept of, like, if a coach has assistant coaches that he teaches, and then those coaches become head coaches, those are part of his coaching tree, because he is what influenced and taught them. And then anybody that they teach and influence and have as assistant coaches would still be part of his coaching tree, because it's somebody he helped produced this person on all the way down. So part of your music tree, if you will, your music history tree. And here's the thing. I gotta be honest. I have a strong opinion on this, and it's that you don't need to know music history. It's a stupid thing that people will try to make you feel bad about, or will try to tell you that you need to spend time studying the Beatles or some other band just because they were popular, or in their minds they were a great band, so you need to know blah blah. Like, why? Why do I need to know that? Why do you need to know that? The answer is you don't. You really don't. You are your own artist. I'm my own artist. We should be spending our time perfecting our own sound, our own craft, not caring about artists, even up to like 60 years in the past. Now, that's not to say those artists don't matter. It's just to say that it's not something that we need to concentrate on. Because, again, we should be perfecting our own art, not obsessing so much with older bands that in theory we should like, or were popular, or are considered the greatest of all time. Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? Like, if it's not, especially if it's not even your style, what does it matter? And yes, I'm influenced by artists who were influenced by bands like, say, Nirvana. And then, I'm probably influenced by artists who are influenced by somebody who's influenced by the Beatles. But what does it matter? I have the artists that I like, that influenced me, that are still influencing me. I have those artists. And the idea that I need to go farther back just because, or that I need to seek out, the top artists of all time in quotation marks, because for some reason we have it in our minds that popularity equals good, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, like, it's funny to me how everybody loses sight, especially over time, that whoever's the most popular is not necessarily the best, because the same people who today will join me in making fun of Taylor Swift will tell me how the Beatles are the greatest band of all time. It's like, okay, they were the most popular band of all time. They're the most irritating band of all time, as far as somebody that every single person tells me I somehow need to like for whatever reason. But really, they were a pop act from the 60s, is the reality. Like, they were. You can deny it all you want, but when they first came over on the boat, they were just a pop act that came over at the right time when we were just ready for that Britpop thing to come. And they were the first here, and that gave us the Beatles. And everybody says, oh, but then they wrote deeper songs later in life. I mean, some, yeah. But you know what? When you put out like 700 songs, you better have 20 really good songs. But everybody just points to the 10 really good John Lennon songs and are like, oh, look, the Beatles are the greatest. Like, okay, but you have to take the whole body of work, which now I'm getting down a totally different rabbit hole that I did not mean to go down. But the idea is this. What hamburger is the best-selling hamburger on the planet? The most popular hamburger on the planet? The McDonald's hamburger. Who in their right mind would say that is the best hamburger? Exactly. Nobody. And yet, when it comes to music, people seem to think that, whether it be generations past or now, if you're into pop music now, you probably are a now person. And if you're the kind of person who insists that the Beatles are not just a good band from the past, are not just a highly popular band from the past, but you think they are the greatest band of all time, you are the equivalent of the person who says, well, McDonald's hamburger is the best because it's the most popular, not that it's the most easily digestible. Digestible in this case, not meaning actual digestion, but something that can be easily made, is made in many different places, it's served in many different places, so people can have the opportunity to eat it in many different places, so they do eat it in many different places. Almost like radio play. And here's the thing I'm trying to get at here. I know this podcast is more of a rant, but I figured I'd change it up a little bit. People are going to tell you a bunch of things that you need to do because you're a music artist. And, some of those things are helpful. And then other things I think are a waste of time and even can be actively destructive. And I'm going to be the one to go on paper and tell you, if you don't like the Beatles, if you don't like Metallica, even though you're a rock band, if you don't like, I don't know, if you don't like Eminem, even though you're into rap, or you don't like, I don't know, just whoever is big, either now or previously in your genres, you don't need to like them. You don't need to study them. Could it be helpful? Sure. Is it a bad thing? No, I don't think so. I mean, I don't think it could hurt to, listen through a few Beatles albums, even though I have yet to hear a Beatles song that I enjoyed. No, of course that wouldn't hurt. But you don't need to, because you are your own artist. You have your own identity. You are going to go do your own things. And frankly, you have your own influences. And your influences are something that are worth studying a little bit, because that's the music that you love. And chances are, too, those are in some capacity another popular artist. So the idea that you need to study the most popular artist in order to be successful is silly, unless you consider all the bands that you grew up loving not successful. And chances are you're not even shooting to be the next Beatles. I don't think there will be a next Beatles or the next Taylor Swift. Like, you should be shooting to be the first you, not the next anybody else, because nobody wants a second-rate somebody else. Because everything great is the first of themselves. And that's what I want you to be. And so don't let all of these people tell you, oh, you need to know this band and you need to study this band or integrate more of their style. And no, you be you. Thanks for listening to the Songwriter Theory podcast. Be sure to subscribe and tell a friend. If you want to jumpstart your songwriting, be sure to download my free guide on 10 proven ways to start writing a song at songwritertheory.com/free guide.